What's up? Happy Easter to the NBA fans out there. It is a holiday weekend. In LA, it's Coachella, which means nobody's here for that specific reason. Maybe no one's here because it's Easter also. I think it has everything to do with Coachella, which is essentially a holiday in Los Angeles anyway. But we're going to go into a lot of the NBA playoffs. We have so much to discuss. We have so many takeaways, and none of which, so trigger warning, none of which of this discussion from everything game one will determine who wins these series, except for maybe one of them. So I shouldn't say none of which. But let me get the NBA scoreboard up. The Warriors are about to finish off the Blazers. They're up 13 at the moment. There's 124 left. If by some miraculous turnaround comes, well, then shred me in the comments section. Obviously, it doesn't affect my life either way. So let's go to yesterday and those games first. Tomorrow, we'll talk about Bulls Celtics and Thunder Rockets. Those two games will be left over for tomorrow's show. So we have, some good stuff to talk about with that, besides the fact that I'm going to be watching them on recording as I have plans for later today. As it is, I'm trying to pull up the scoreboard. Of course, when you just go to ESPN.com, there's just no easy scoreboard to get to. Just give me the scores of the games and give me the box scores. That's all I need. There we go. Saturday, April 15th. We're going to go right down the list. Cavs 109, Pacers 108. Biggest takeaway from this is the Cavs have some major defensive worries. There are defensive breakdowns that are causing people like Paul George, Miles Turner to take advantage. In the case of this one, Teague and Monte, taking complete advantage and picking apart the Cavs defense. Having said that, the Pacers have every single one of the Cavs defensive issues multiplied by 1,000. The Pacers will not win this series. They will not take it to 6 games. I think that it's going to be close for a lot of them, but the difference is when the Cavs click, the Pacers will get run off the floor. And I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I don't know if that's a first-round thing for the Cavs or if it's going to be limping their way into the Eastern Conference Finals and then maybe finally getting exploited for good and turning those into losses. A 109-108 game is not convincing. Paul George has been sensational for the Indiana Pacers, but their team, like Lance Stevens is going to need to play the best defense of his life for them to turn around this into even a 6-game series. So I think it's still 5. I can't imagine the Pacers not picking up one win maybe at home against this Cavs team that, again, defensively, I'm not sure why Love isn't sliding over as a help defender, especially when he's put up down low in the paint on the defensive end of the floor. I don't understand why there's not at least one or two, LeBron's on Paul George. It doesn't mean LeBron doesn't need help too. And I get that, missed his shot, and Paul George needs to get the last shot. Not when you're getting double teamed by LeBron and J.R. Smith, I think it was at the very end of that game. So I get that your superstar should be taking it, but if your superstar is getting a bad look compared to what was pretty much an open look, with C.J. Miles, who got like an open-ish look, give the guy a shot with the open look. Yes, even Michael Jordan needed Steve Kerr to hit a game winner here or there. In this case, it would have been a little bit different if the Pacers stole their first game on the Cavs' home court, but they didn't. And in the end, a 1-point win is no different than a 20-point win. It's just a matter of how convinced you are about a certain team. Next up, the Bucks and the Raptors. The YouTube comment section. My God, guys. I don't hate the Raptors. I hate Raptors fans. Be a little bit more objective. It's the same problems year in, year out for the Raptors. Now, look, I undersold them last year where they pulled out Game 7 wins against the Pacers and the Heat, and then the biggest surprise was winning 2 games at home against the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. This year, though, it's not that I'm giving myself credit. I'm not that type of person. I don't do that. But I said that the Raptors were going to be prone to being upset in the first round, even though I picked the Bucks to troll all of you because I know 97% of the TYT Sports audience is Raptors fans hailing straight from Toronto. But I bet on the Raptors to win the series. I bet on the Raptors to win the series because they are the better team in this series. But same problems year in and year out with DeRozan and Lowry's playoff shooting. They're going to click. And when they click, the Bucks will lose. But what was the final there? 97 to 83. You can't win games scoring 83 points. Don't matter who's going around. Serge Ibaka was playing the role of spark plug in that game, and he was doing a very good job of it on both offense and defense. He missed some shots down the stretch, but it was a major reason he was keeping them in the game late. Giannis made some very youthful mistakes. He's fourth year in the league, and he was looked like some rookie fouls. And then at the other end, sometimes he was showing off the brilliance that he brings to the game. The Raptors, I shouldn't even say you guys, the Raptors did a great job of containing Chris Middleton, forcing him to take bad shots. He started to get a little bit hot later in the game, way later in the game, when they started to pull away on that last Bucks outscore Raptors by 19 in the second half was the thing. So the second half is when, Middleton started to get a little bit hot. And look, I think you got to give Jason Kidd the credit here. He's the guy who it seems like is the mastermind behind this Bucks major turnaround since January, what made them, climb to the 6th seed in the first place. And of course, you have a superstar in Giannis. Raptors have now a must-win at home on Tuesday or Wednesday. They got to go back to Milwaukee, at best 1-1, and I still think that in this 7-game series, 4 of them is when Lowry and DeRozan are going to find the scoring, and they need to. Lowry's career playoff shooting percentage is 37.9%. He does way more than just shoot. He's actually got, I think at this point, some Chris Paul in him, where he does make the great pass, the right pass, and he has an ability to make a turnaround jumper as the shot clock's expiring with a guy contesting him. He's got a big shot ability. So let Kyle Lowry continue to run, be the focal point of the offense, and the mastermind behind all of the creation should be coming from Kyle Lowry. And even if he is, 3 of 10 on the night, it doesn't mean to stop shooting. For guys like Lowry and DeRozan, which is similar to what the Blazers need to do to even stand a chance, even though they don't, is rely on your 2 superstars in the backcourt. I talk about backcourt and guards a lot in the NBA this last 2-3 years because they are the ones who are responsible for championships in the last 2 or 3 years. And of course, the guys who are 7 feet tall who don't play center, like Durant of the world, who's a small forward, wherever the hell you want to put him. The Spurs and the Grizzlies, very easy to recap. Spurs took care of their business. They took care of their business in the most Spurs way possible because they absolutely demolished Memphis. What'd they do right? They're on their home court, so they defended their home court. Their defense was extraordinary. Kawhi Leonard was phenomenal. And there's not even too much to break down from this game. This is what the Spurs do. This is why they are in conference finals, or at least the second round, year in and year out. This is why the Spurs have won 50 games every single year since, I think, 2000 or 2001, or the 2000-2001 season, possibly stemming back to 1999, where I think they beat the Knicks in the finals. They even won 50 games in the 66-game lockout shortened season. They still won 50 games. All they do is win, and that's why they have 5 championships, because they will never let a team like Memphis, who's a good team, a team like Utah, who's a good team, even come close to touching the elite level of basketball that they play on. And that moves on to the... Why can't I go down? There we go. And that moves on to the Clippers and the Jazz. Here's where the media is freaking out for the wrong thing. So if you watch the press conference after that game, Doc Rivers was discussing, He was discussing the dumbest question he's ever been asked by a reporter. He says, it's the dumbest question I've ever been asked. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why would we would never wait to the final buzzer. It's not college basketball. You're not, in the tournament where a 3 wins you the game and you're the 14 seed trying to make an upset. No, this is the NBA. Chris Paul had the window, the lane. He ran the Spurs Game 7 play that won them that game, and it worked to a T. And then they came back and just Joe Johnson, ISO Joe, just beat them like it's 2003, since 2000, whatever year you want to go back to. But let's go way back. So the media is freaking out for that press conference. Doc Rivers explodes on reporter. No. Doc was right about that. That is one of the dumber questions you could ask. You take the lane. You take the shot. I think every single coach in the NBA would agree. Here's what you should be ripping Doc apart for. And I mean limb for limb. Rudy Gobert goes down in the first 5 seconds of that game, which is a devastating blow. You never want to see other team superstars go down, ever. Doesn't matter if you love or hate a team. Rudy Gobert is, based on just how Draymond Green played, the second best defensive player in the league. Or if you want to give Kawhi Leonard his due, the third best defensive player in the league. Regardless, he's an all-defensive center. He is unbelievably good moving laterally, clogging the lane, using his ridiculous 8 feet of, God, like standing up straight, 9 feet standing up straight to cause problems for any big man in the league or any of these 7-footers, like, as I mentioned before, Kevin Durant, who could have turnaround 16-foot mid-range jump shots. He's great at defending all of it. And as Andre mentioned in the YouTube clip not too long ago, he's also great at being an offensive threat in the second half of the season. So he goes down. So right then and there, you make an adjustment. 5 seconds into the game. What you do if you're Doc Rivers in this situation, which I don't know why he wouldn't do it, is that means the game plan becomes the Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan pick and pop, pick and roll, pick and slide, pick and move. Don't care which pick and roll offensive set you want to use. The fact that you weren't lobbing that ball to DeAndre Jordan or having him work in the post at a Russell Westbrook usage percentage level is laughable. It's laughable. It proves every single point about Doc Rivers never being an X's and O's guy. Now he's not an adjuster. Now he's just a bad coach. It's a one-game freakout. I actually think the Clippers still win this series because without Rudy Gobert, I find it hard to believe that they can hang on to win 4 of these games, but there's not one more team more prone to losing than the Clippers. They have not made the conference finals. It's 46 straight seasons. They are the only team in the league to go 46, 40, or I think 30 plus years without making the conference finals. And you can't even be upset about it anymore. We talk about it all the time now. Blake Griffin gets 40-plus minutes of usage, man. You got Chris Paul. Let him take over. Look what happens when Chris Paul takes over. Look what happens when Chris Paul runs everything through Chris Paul. He scores or is responsible for those last 10 straight points, which happened, right? And they turn it around. But instead, defensively, they break down embarrassingly against the Jazz. And I got to give my credit to Quinn Snyder, who outcoached Doc Rivers so badly, as I mentioned, that Doc should be benched for the second game of this playoffs. And I don't even think there'd be any difference. I think it'd actually be a plus. It's been proven Doc Rivers is not a good head coach. He might be a great ego manager. He might be one of those guys who can keep control of a locker room for F's sake. He got Rondo to work well in a Celtics organization, a young Rondo, an even more immature Rajon Rondo, an immature objectively, like he was younger at that point, to find a way to coexist with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Those are big-time egos, all 3 Hall of Famers. And he won a championship with that team. But he did not win a championship because he adjusted ever against the Lakers. He didn't win a championship because he was drawing up the right plays against the Lakers in those finals. And we've seen it time and time again. Man, Doc Rivers is not suited to be it should not be considered that. So he's right about that coaching decision to give Chris Paul the ball and get him in there for the open lane and go up. And then don't play defense? Come on. It's absurd, and good for Joe Johnson. It was actually decent defense from Jamal or was it Mbah Mute who was on him? Regardless, ISO Joe had some special thing given to him from Damian Lillard's 20,000th game ball, and somehow, and I think I'm going to be wrong, but somehow I think the Clippers still win this game. It's enough of ripping on the Clippers, but it's just laughable, man. It's laughable of how they played that game and lost when Rudy Gobert went down. Another quick thing was that Derek Favors couldn't move left or right. And I mean that literally. Watch the tape. He could not move side to side. It looked like every step he was in such dire pain. It looked painful to watch. And the Clippers don't take the ball to him time and time and time again. They don't force him out of the game. No. They decide, let's give Blake. Was it Joe Johnson who pulled the chair from Blake Griffin too, which is hilarious given that it just means that people were watching the tape on Blake and they just know that after he plays 36 or so minutes, he's going to make that move. He's going to make that. He's so damn predictable in that point of the game that you can pull the chair on a considered elite NBA player. That is bad, man. I hope the Jazz win. Because I think it might be the best thing for the Clippers. That whole organization has to blow up, and you got to find a way to either keep Chris Paul or Blake Griffin. One of them stays with DeAndre Jordan. Doc out, and you find somebody else to do it. There's not many good head coaches in the league. There's a lot that are better than Doc Rivers when it comes to the actual coaching. So hats off to Quinn Snyder. He deserves all the credit. On to today. Sunday. Wizards, John Wall. All NBA second team John Wall. I made that one adjustment. I originally didn't have him on my second team. The other adjustment is I got to move Gordon Hayward, I think, off for Draymond Green. I don't know what I was thinking at that time, but, look, we all make mistakes. John Wall, All-NBA second-team guard John Wall, played like All-NBA second-team guard John Wall. He had 31 and 14 assists, I believe. He was flying up and down the court. Washington, again, took care of their business on their home court. They were down at that one point in that game, 7 or 8 points. 32 points and 14 assists for John Wall. A good showing for a team that's very dangerous in their home court. I don't think the Hawks are going to pose too much of a challenge. I think Andre and I were kind of disagreement on in terms of how much of a toss-up this Hawks-Wizards series is. I think the Wizards are much better. All right, slight hiccup. We accidentally stopped the recording, so now we're picking up from the next part of the recording. Who else finish well for the Wizards? Beal looked all right. Beal looked good. I shouldn't say all right. Couldn't get exact. I mean, 1 or 2 shots more, and he would have finished 50%. That's what you need. Marcin Gortat, a.k.a. Gonzaga's 7'9" mountain of a man. His Polish teammate, as I put it. Looked good, too. And one of our most underrated players, Kelly Oubre, was minus 16 on the day in his plus-minus, so maybe not that exciting. Now, I think someone was sarcastically sending it to me. 5 assists for Brandon Jennings, really leading the second unit. Brandon Jennings is not good. The Warriors game is finished. So we will end on that in this 20-minute diatribe of a clip. 121-109. The Golden State Warriors beat the Portland Trailblazers. If I'm the Blazers and McCollum and Lillard are as on fire as they can possibly get and are combining for 57 of your whatever, or 50 of your 58 points in the first half, whatever the actual number was, why isn't that the strategy all along? You're not going to beat the Warriors man to man. You're not going to beat them on creativity. You're not going to beat them on offensive sets. You're not going to beat them defensively. They're better than you on paper in pretty much every single category. And on tape. So why not make the strategy? Let's have Lillard and McCollum take 35 shots each. I don't see why that wouldn't be the most fun thing to watch. I think it's actually the best chance they have because their combined $70-something million in signings between, Evan Turner, Crabbe, Miles Leonard were, in their plus-minus today was -9, -11, right? And, -9, -6, and -4. I mean, I can't believe Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum had 34 and 41 points respectively. They shot a combined 2% from the field, knocked down 7 threes total. We're getting it done. Only turned the ball over a combined 7 times, and they couldn't get it done. And why couldn't they get it done? Because Draymond Green is a wizard defensively. He had the highest plus-minus of any Warrior on the court today with 15. He had 12 defensive rebounds. He had 9 assists. He had 3 steals. He had 5 blocks. Curry and Durant can't coexist, though. Curry and Durant don't make the team better. On a day where McCollum and Lillard were as hot as possibly can be, if they shot a couple of shots worse, it would have been 121-90. It would have been a 31-point blowout if it wasn't for McCollum and Lillard doing exactly what they do. If it wasn't for just one of them doing exactly what they do, it would have been 121-100. 21-point blowout. Man, the Warriors are good defensively. One of the things I saw going around Twitter, if Durant was the worst player on offense, he'd still be a starting forward in the league, probably because of how good he is 2 ways. Klay Thompson was playing good defense. Watch the tape. Watch his footwork. He was doing everything right to try to stop McCollum and Lillard, and anytime he got switched onto him, they were making tough shots. It's the same as when Kyrie Irving was just better offense, was beating better defense in the finals last year. It's not like Klay Thompson wasn't doing his part. The JaVale McGee, on the Andre Iguodala to JaVale McGee lobs, the Draymond Green to JaVale McGee lobs. It was good. That was fun. Good for JaVale. I think that was all 6 of his points, all 3 of his buckets were, I think, off lobs. I could be wrong. But he showed up with 2 big blocks also. So defensively, I was most impressed with that. On the Warriors, that's hopefully a 5-game series. I think that they can win on their home court. I think they've proven that they can beat the Warriors on their home court before. And I think Lillard's Blazers in 6 prediction is starting to go out the window. That's it. I have a giant pimple on my nose because, life sucks. I'm 25 years old, and sometimes you look like you're 16. There's an iron in the background. And that's it. There's no wall spot, though, for you guys to be annoyed by. Raptors fans, come at me, man. I'm super excited to see your comments. I would like you guys to leave the comments that instead of saying, like, you could totally go for the, get the F out, Jason, you're a Raptors hater, you're a piece of shit, you're a goddamn asshole, all those things. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that when you leave those comments, you never, and I mean never, offer any kind of argument. Jason's a piece of shit Raptors hater. Jason hates the Raptors, obviously. Man, you're taking your mind numbing. Is this guy brain dead? Those things don't bother me. We'll watch Dave Chappelle's stand-up. He does a whole thing about name calling and how it has very little effect on most of us at this point. And the internet changed that. So I love all of the comments section. I'm a big fan of it. So leave an actual argument. Leave an actual reason as to why the Raptors are that much better than the Bucks. That much. And I'll happily have a conversation with you. But if you're just going to write, doesn't bother me. Have a good one, though. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all the good stuff, and we'll see you tomorrow.